Ethan Carter, a 41-year-old salaried employee at Crescent Solutions, slowly exhaled as he walked through the bustling downtown district of Anderson Falls. The late afternoon sun was casting long shadows on the pavement, and he could already feel the weight of another stressful day at the office. For years, he had been known simply as that quiet guy who'd joined the company right out of high school. Little did most of his coworkers know, Ethan secretly held the title of special controlling shareholder, which meant he owned more than 90% of Crescent Solutions shares. At first glance, it was difficult to see him as anything more than a modest, somewhat introverted employee. But life and fate had dealt him an unusual set of circumstances. His father, Arthur Carter, had once been the president and co-founder of Crescent Solutions, alongside his old friend, Donovan Ellis. Ethan's childhood had been comfortable and stable until Arthur suffered a fatal stroke when Ethan was on the verge of graduating high school. That sudden blow turned the Carter family's world upside down. The family's primary breadwinner was gone. Ethan's mother, Caroline, had no work experience, and Ethan's younger brother, Dylan, was too young to support them. Despite Dylan's remarkable intelligence, their late father's dream was for Dylan to attend a renowned university and pave his way toward a prosperous future. Ethan, who had always put his family first, made the decision to forego college. He couldn't bring himself to deny Dylan the opportunity of a lifetime. So Ethan took on part-time jobs, eventually moving up to full-time work, all the while sending what he could back home. Over time, Donovan Ellis, who had assumed the role of president after Arthur's death, noticed Ethan's diligence. Donovan had fond memories of Arthur and felt a protective warmth toward Arthur's son. Unbeknownst to the newer employees, Donovan quietly coached Ethan, preparing him to someday take over. Because Arthur's will left the majority shareholding to Ethan, Donovan believed it was best for Ethan to learn the fundamentals from the ground up, rather than thrust him into leadership too quickly. Ethan had spent the first few years adjusting to the reality of losing his father, balancing grief with the demands of supporting his family. His mother eventually took on small side jobs, and Dylan, free from financial worry, devoted himself to his studies. Dylan would later become the executive vice president at Crescent Solutions, an invaluable ally to Ethan. But while Ethan's personal story contained many small triumphs, not everyone at Crescent Solutions appreciated him. Some saw him as a simple, unremarkable high school graduate unworthy of recognition. This ignorance of Ethan's true position led to some interesting and frustrating encounters, none more notorious than those with Helena Parker, the newly recruited head of the business development department. Helena was from a wealthy background, flaunted her elite degree, and boasted about her expensive tastes every chance she got. She had joined Crescent Solutions with glowing recommendations about her exceptional business acumen, but in reality, she had a mean streak. Helena was quick to look down on employees she considered beneath her, especially those without prestigious educations. From the moment she laid eyes on Ethan, a tension simmered between them, growing into a one-sided vendetta on her part. "People like you aren't needed here, just disappear," Helena had once hissed at him with a dismissive flick of her manicured hand. On more than one occasion, she referred to him as that useless guy, openly mocking him for not having a college degree. For Ethan, who had sacrificed so much for his family, enduring her insults was like swallowing shards of glass. Still, he bit back his frustration, knowing he had to maintain composure. Donovan Ellis, the current president, had always taught him that truly strong people listened more than they spoke, for knowledge was power. But Helena's harassment escalated. She assigned Ethan meaningless tasks like reorganizing dusty file rooms, scrubbing the break room, or mopping the corridors, chores usually handled by custodial staff, not office employees. Whenever Ethan pushed back politely, explaining that he had other responsibilities, Helena would twist his words, accusing him of insubordination. She used her departmental authority to make his life miserable, hoping he'd quit. When she insisted he was a nuisance, a parasite on the company, Ethan kept it together. However, there came a day when he could no longer abide her scorn. That day began like any other. Ethan arrived early, hoping to review a few reports before the morning meeting. He had been assigned to compile essential data for an upcoming project. Sipping his coffee, he quietly went through the documents, highlighting key figures that the executives would need. Helena strutted into the office, immediately bombarding one of her subordinates with criticisms. Her shrill voice echoed in the otherwise calm space, an unpleasant alarm clock no one had asked for. Spotting Ethan, Helena marched over, wearing a predatory smirk that made his stomach lurch. She slammed a stack of papers onto his desk. "Look at this," she said, voice dripping with disdain. "Client complaints, all referencing subpar quality, damage and overpriced materials. Who did it? Someone incompetent, I'm sure. The only incompetent person on my radar is you." Ethan glanced at the documents. There was an email, apparently from the company, rudely telling a client that their products were worthless and that they were cutting ties. He raised his eyebrows. I didn't write this," he said firmly. The email wasn't even from his address, nor did it bear any resemblance to his professional style. Helena snorted. "Please, as if the others, graduates of top schools, would stoop to this. It had to be you." She jabbed a perfectly polished nail toward his chest. "You're the reason the company is losing face. You're worthless, Ethan. So worthless that I don't want you around." Her voice rose another octave, drawing the attention of every coworker in the open-plan office. Ethan felt the heat of embarrassment creeping up his neck. This time it was too much. He forced a hollow smile, remembering every nasty barb she'd thrown at him over the months. "Useless people should be fired, right?" Ethan answered quietly, nodding in what appeared to be agreement. Helena's eyes flickered with surprise, as if she sensed that something in his tone was off, but she mistook his statement for surrender. A cruel grin spread across her face. "Yes, finally you get it," she snickered. "At least you know your place." That night, Ethan went home restless. The next day was the annual shareholder meeting, a significant event that Helena believed she was attending purely out of her importance to the company. She had no idea that Ethan, the man she derided, was the special controlling shareholder with the power to override nearly any decision in the firm. Ethan spent the evening reviewing documents Donovan had prepared, reports on Helena's treatment of staff, potential conflicts of interest, and multiple red flags that had emerged in the short time she'd been employed. Crescent Solutions had always prided itself on being a family-like environment, a place where people could grow together. Helena's arrival, however, had sown discord and despair. Donovan had been investigating quietly, waiting for the right moment to address her misconduct comprehensively. With new evidence surfacing about thefts in the office and questionable client interactions, Donovan was now ready to call Helena to account. Ethan, both as Donovan's protégé and majority shareholder, was prepared to play his part. The next morning, the entire leadership team of Crescent Solutions gathered at a luxury conference hall downtown. Board members, executives, and certain key stakeholders arrived, exchanging greetings and pleasantries as they prepared for the official meeting. Ethan entered discreetly, wearing a neat but unassuming navy blue suit. He rarely flaunted the status he possessed. Donovan waved to him from across the room. Before Ethan could make his way over, Helena spotted him. She marched straight toward him, wearing a smug expression. "Why are you here?" she snapped. "This meeting is for insiders only, important people who truly contribute to the company's future. People like you shouldn't be wandering in." She then proceeded to push at his arm, as though ushering him away like a piece of inconvenient furniture. Ethan stayed silent, unwilling to create a scene in public, but Helena's hand was firm. She was physically trying to remove him from the conference hall when Donovan arrived. "Is there an issue here?" Donovan asked, voice measured, but with enough authority to make Helena freeze. Helena tossed her hair and gave Donovan her best ingratiating smile. "Oh, Mr. Ellis, sir. I was just explaining that this staff member shouldn't be at such an important meeting." I was about to show him the door. Silence weighed heavily as Donovan's face grew dark. "Helena, you must be misunderstanding something," he said. He turned to Ethan and gestured for him to step forward. Ethan Carter holds 90% of Crescent Solutions shares, which, as you know, makes him a special controlling shareholder. He must attend this meeting. Helena blinked, color draining from her face. And 90%. That's impossible, she stammered. Her eyes darted between Ethan and Donovan, as if hoping one of them would burst out laughing and say it was all a joke. But neither did. Ethan simply looked at her calmly, giving a small nod. A strangled laugh escaped Helena. He's a mere high school grad. He can't own all of that. She stared at Ethan, mouth opening and closing. Then, all at once, her legs buckled beneath her. She collapsed, trembling on the glossy marble floor, making a spectacle that left several people gawking from across the hall. Donovan helped Helena back to her feet just as she started to mumble disjointed apologies, eyes glazed with confusion. In a calm but cool voice, he explained the company's background so that Helena, and everyone else within earshot, would understand. Arthur Carter, Ethan's father, had co-founded the company with Donovan. Ethan inherited 90% of the company's shares after Arthur's passing, but he'd insisted on learning from the bottom up rather than stepping into immediate leadership. The rest, Donovan said, was history. It seems nobody bothered to inform you, Donovan concluded, because of how difficult you have made yourself to work with. The words were a polite understatement. Donovan gestured for Helena to leave, but she clutched at his arm, trying to stammer explanations. Just then, the meeting was called to order, and Donovan signaled to security to guide Helena out of the room if she continued to resist. She retreated with as much dignity as she could muster, though her face was pale and her eyes shone with panic. The shareholder meeting proceeded smoothly. With Ethan's dominant share and Donovan's guidance, the agenda passed without any major disputes. Ethan couldn't help but feel a bittersweet sense of relief. He'd waited, endured Helena's bullying, all for this moment of truth. Now, Helena faced an inevitable reckoning. Donovan gave Ethan a nod as they concluded. The path was clear for what came next. After the meeting, Ethan left the hall, heading toward a line of cabs. As he waited, footsteps pounded behind him. He turned, seeing Helena stumbling toward him, chest heaving with desperation. She skidded to a stop in front of him, blocking his path. "Mr. Carter," she gasped, forcing a smile that looked more like a grimace. "I was hoping we could talk." Ethan said nothing, merely inclined his head in an invitation for her to speak. Passers-by glanced curiously at Helena's disheveled hair and frantic demeanor. She bowed deeply, arms spread awkwardly, an almost theatrical gesture. "I'm so sorry, truly," she said. "I was rude, ignorant, and completely out of line. But now you know how important my skills are to the company. Maybe we can come to an understanding. You put in a good word for me, and I'll make sure that we—" Ethan saw straight through it. "Helena," he interrupted softly, "you're not apologizing because you actually regret how you treated me. You're apologizing because you got caught. I'm not interested in bargaining." She let out a small, hysterical laugh. "I admit I need your help. I can't afford to be dismissed. If you say just one nice thing to Mr. Ellis, that might save me." Ethan shook his head. "I'm done," he replied. "Get out of my way." Helena pouted, for a moment seeming on the verge of tears, but then she hissed, "I'm still your boss, remember." She tossed those words as if they were her final shred of power. Then she turned, storming off clumsily, nearly tripping in her haste. Pedestrians turned to stare as she yelped in pain, picking herself up and limping away. Ethan watched her with a mix of exasperation and pity before catching a taxi home. The following morning, upon arriving at Crescent Solutions, Ethan found Helena lurking near his desk. She had a bandage on her right ankle, and a faint bruise on her forehead. She tried once more, adopting an almost cordial tone. "Ethan, I hurt myself after falling yesterday. The doctor said I should stay off it for a while. It's painful, so please, walk slowly with me to Mr. Ellis's office. He wants to see us both." Ethan refused to rise to her bait, ignoring the forced sweetness in her voice. Yes, I'm going there anyway, he answered coolly. If you need to walk slowly, that's your choice. I'll see you there. He strode off, not waiting for her. Helena hurried after him, muttering complaints about his insensitivity. Donovan was waiting, arms folded as he leaned against his office desk. His usually warm face was stern, eyebrows knitted with disapproval. "Good morning," he said curtly. "Have a seat, both of you." Helena tried to maintain her composure, wincing as she sank into a chair. Ethan stood behind her, arms at his sides, glancing at Donovan, who seemed even more troubled than the day before. "Let's keep this straightforward," Donovan began, leveling his gaze at Helena. "I have enough evidence to conclude you've repeatedly harassed and intimidated your subordinates. On top of that, you forged an email that damaged a valuable client relationship. Finally, you're also implicated in a series of thefts from your fellow employees." Helena's face drained of color. "That's ridiculous," she burst out, though her voice quivered. "I never meant to sabotage anyone. I was only being strict. And that email was, well, it was a mistake, okay? But theft. That's crossing a line, Mr. Ellis. You don't have proof." Donovan sighed. "We do," he said. He retrieved a small voice recorder from his desk drawer. "We installed additional security cameras and distributed voice recorders among certain staff members due to rising incidents of harassment and theft. Please listen." He pressed play, and Helena's sneering voice filled the room. It was a highlight reel of her vicious comments to various employees, belittling them for their lack of degrees, mocking their clothes, assigning humiliating tasks. Helena's mouth hung open. Even Ethan, who had been on the receiving end of her worst outbursts, felt a chill hearing them replayed so starkly. "Moreover," Donovan added, pausing the audio, "the IT department checked your computer logs. They traced the malicious client email back to your workstation. No one else had access to it. Care to explain?" Helena trembled, tears forming in her eyes. She lowered her head. "I wrote it," she muttered. "But I was upset. I thought it would scare him, that useless." She caught herself, glancing over her shoulder at Ethan. "I just wanted to force him out, so the rest of us wouldn't have to deal with a high school grad getting all this attention." Ethan's jaw clenched. It was one thing to suspect Helena's malicious intent, but hearing her confirm it was both infuriating and strangely liberating. He saw Donovan's face darken. "You also realized you could pin the blame on Ethan, correct?" Donovan prompted. "Yes," Helena admitted, voice barely audible. "I assumed no one would question me if I pointed the finger at him. I mean, he has no college degree. I have an Ivy League background. Everyone would believe me, not him." She swallowed, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I was jealous. He was so liked by everyone here, despite his background." Donovan clicked his tongue in disapproval. "Ethan's father founded this company. But even if he hadn't, we don't judge someone by their educational background here. You've no doubt seen that. Or perhaps you just chose not to. Either way, that attitude won't be tolerated." Helena was on the verge of breaking down completely. "Mr. Ellis, I promise I'll change. Please let me keep my job. I can't afford to lose it." Her shoulders trembled. Donovan remained unmoved. "I've been waiting to address one more point. The security footage from the new cameras showed you rummaging through people's lockers, as well as searching their desks. We have a record of missing items that suddenly reappeared in your bag. Small amounts of cash, missing wallets, a few pieces of jewelry. Why would you do that, Helena?" She let out a ragged sob, burying her face in her hands. "I fell into debt, all right. I spent my salary and extra loans on luxury items. Expensive bags, dresses, shoes. My family cut me off and I couldn't repay everything. I was desperate. I sold some of the stuff, but the resale value wasn't enough. I panicked." Donovan rubbed his temples, disheartened. "So you decided to steal from your coworkers, the very people you were supposed to lead and support?" "Yes," Helena whispered, tears dripping onto her lap. "I'm sorry." Ethan watched her, torn between anger and pity. She was, without a doubt, the architect of her own downfall. Despite everything, he found it tragic that someone so seemingly privileged had ended up in such a desperate state. But he couldn't forget how many people she had hurt, nor the trust she had shattered. Donovan sighed. "We've considered reporting you to the authorities," Donovan said, voice heavy. "But we wanted to give you a chance to explain yourself before finalizing that decision." Helena nodded, tears flowing. I understand." She inhaled a shaky breath. "Please, I'll pay back whatever I took. I'll do anything." Donovan looked over at Ethan as if asking for his opinion. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I believe that for the sake of all the employees she stole from, and for her to truly atone, this needs to be taken to the police. She should return what she can, but the law must handle the rest." Helena's hands began to shake. "No, please, can't we settle this internally?" she begged, voice cracking. Ethan's features hardened. "You've shown no real remorse until you were caught. You threatened people's livelihoods, damaged our company's reputation, and physically stole from your colleagues. You don't get to avoid the consequences." Donovan nodded. "That settles it," he said. "Helena Parker, I'm dismissing you from Crescent Solutions for gross misconduct, harassment, and theft. Security will escort you from the premises. We will also notify the police regarding the stolen items and relevant evidence." A sob tore from Helena's throat. She looked between them as though searching for a final lifeline. None appeared. 2 security officers arrived, quietly stepping inside. One placed a gentle hand on Helena's shoulder, but Helena jerked away. She wept openly as they guided her out of Donovan's office. The door clicked shut, leaving Ethan and Donovan alone. For a few moments neither spoke. Then Donovan sank back into his chair, pressing his palms to his eyes. "I hate seeing any employee fall like that," he admitted. "But you're right, she brought it all on herself." Ethan inhaled, feeling like the tension of the past year had finally begun to dissipate. "Yes," he said quietly. "I just hope she can reflect on everything she's done." Donovan nodded in somber agreement. "On to other matters," he said, clearing his throat. "I've been waiting to finalize the transition. You know what that means, Ethan." Ethan did know. Over the past few months, Donovan had strongly hinted at stepping down as president so Ethan could formally take the helm, fulfilling Arthur Carter's vision. "It feels like too soon," Ethan admitted softly, gazing at Donovan with genuine respect. "I've learned a lot, but I still have more to learn." Donovan smiled kindly. "You've grown enough to take over, Ethan. Running a company doesn't mean you won't still be learning every single day. I'll be here to advise you, just as I promised your father I would. You won't be alone." Touched by Donovan's reassurance, Ethan offered a small nod. "Thank you, sir." Months passed. The police investigation concluded that Helena had indeed stolen from multiple employees. She had also resorted to pilfering small donation boxes in nearby places of worship. The combined charges led to her eventual imprisonment. Word reached Crescent Solutions that Helena, behind bars, was receiving mandatory counseling for her actions. Meanwhile, Donovan Ellis officially announced his retirement as president and introduced Ethan Carter as his successor. The transition was smooth. Ethan's unassuming nature and strong rapport with most employees made the news more celebratory than disruptive. Many employees who had once thought of Ethan only as a quiet, modest colleague were thrilled to see him step up, especially when they learned the true extent of his efforts on behalf of the company. Dylan, Ethan's younger brother, stepped up as vice president, bringing his own expertise and academic insight. Together, the Carter brothers formed a leadership duo, balancing Dylan's analytical skills with Ethan's empathetic approach. Morale rose, communication across departments improved, and employees felt their opinions mattered more. Even junior hires found it easier to voice concerns, confident that their words would reach a sympathetic ear in the upper echelons. In time, Ethan implemented new policies encouraging professional growth for all employees, regardless of their education or background. He set up mentorship programs, cross-training opportunities, and recognized that everyone had potential. The inclusive atmosphere, once threatened by Helena's toxic leadership style, was now stronger than ever. Under Ethan's presidency, Crescent Solutions saw steady growth, both in profit and in employee satisfaction. One crisp autumn evening, as Ethan walked through the newly renovated office lobby, he overheard a couple of new hires chatting enthusiastically about their career goals. A wave of gratitude washed over him. He paused, remembering how he'd once been in their shoes, wide-eyed and uncertain, hungry to prove himself but lacking the fancy degrees many prized. Now, as the leader of the very company his father co-founded, he felt both the weight of responsibility and the warmth of fulfillment. Caroline, his mother, often visited the office, marveling at how far Ethan had come. She would bring homemade snacks for some of the staff, smiling as she saw that her sacrifice, and her late husband's legacy, had not gone to waste. Dylan would occasionally joke about how Ethan could finally buy all the textbooks he'd missed in college, but there was genuine pride behind his humor. They had weathered storms as a family, and they had emerged stronger. Donovan, though semi-retired, would drop by periodically, offering advice. Sometimes he'd bring old photo albums of himself and Arthur Carter, reminiscing in the boardroom about the early days of Crescent Solutions. Two young dreamers renting a tiny office in Anderson Falls, setting up battered desks and a second-hand printer, uncertain if their venture would succeed. Those stories reminded Ethan of the company's roots and fueled his commitment to honor its founding principles. One day, while sorting through some historical documents in the boardroom cabinets, Ethan came across a handwritten note by his father. "Always remember, people before profits. Nurture talent and it will bloom. Mistakes can be forgiven, but cruelty must not be tolerated." Ethan ran his fingers over the ink, feeling his father's presence. Arthur Carter had set the bar for leadership by heart, not by pedigree. That evening, Ethan decided to add a new tradition, an annual Carter Scholarship, awarded to employees who wanted to pursue higher education while working. It was his way of showing that the door to growth always remained open. The staff reacted with overwhelming enthusiasm, further solidifying the sense of unity within the company. As the months rolled on, Crescent Solutions thrived under Ethan's guidance. They attracted new clients, expanded into different markets, and even partnered with charitable organizations, something Donovan had always wanted to do more of. Ethan championed this cause, leading volunteer days and encouraging donations from staff to community nonprofits. The employees embraced the philanthropic push, proud to work for a company that cared about its surroundings as much as it cared about its bottom line. Amid these positive developments, Helena faded into a distant memory. Many employees felt relief that she was gone. No one missed her sneers or her condescending remarks. Some whispered about what might become of her once she completed her sentence, but the general consensus was that, without a significant change of heart, she wouldn't find it easy to reintegrate into the corporate world. A few compassionate souls hoped she might truly repent and eventually rebuild her life elsewhere. Ethan, for his part, harbored no lingering grudge. He believed people could change if they genuinely wanted to. In late spring, Donovan officially passed the ceremonial gavel, an actual wooden gavel that Arthur once kept on his desk, to Ethan. It was a small, intimate ceremony in the main conference room, attended only by department heads, senior managers, and a few administrative staff. Dylan stood by his brother's side, beaming. Caroline and her gentle eyes overflowed with tears of joy. Donovan simply smiled, handing the gavel to Ethan with a whispered reminder. "Lead with integrity, always." Ethan raised the gavel, gave one light tap on the table and said, "I promise to honor the spirit of Crescent Solutions, now and in the future." Applause broke out, echoing in the bright modern space. After the ceremony, Ethan took the floor to address the employees. He thanked them for their trust and for their support. He highlighted the importance of every person's contributions. "Degrees, no degrees. Everyone in this company matters," he said. "We got where we are today because each of you brings unique talents and perspectives to the table. You are what makes Crescent Solutions special." He noticed several employees wiping their eyes, moved by his sincerity. For Ethan, this was the real victory. A warm, supportive company culture that fostered growth and loyalty. Whatever storms lay ahead in the business world, he knew Crescent Solutions would face them together. That night, Ethan made his final rounds of the office before going home. The building was quiet, the lights low. He peered through glass walls into vacant meeting rooms, remembering when he used to mop their floors, back when Helena had tried to demean him. He wasn't vengeful by nature, but he felt a small sense of satisfaction that he had triumphed not through cruelty, but through patience, perseverance, and evidence-based action. Stepping out onto the street, Ethan inhaled the night air. Anderson Falls glowed under street lamps. Somewhere in the distance, cars rumbled by. A breeze carried the distant hum of traffic and the faint laughter of people enjoying late dinners. He thought of Helena for an instant, wondering if she might someday find redemption, then let the thought drift away, replaced by gratitude for the road ahead. He pulled out his phone, shot a quick text to Dylan. "Dinner at Mom's tomorrow? Let's celebrate a bit." The reply came almost immediately. "Absolutely. Let's invite Donovan too." Ethan smiled, tucking his phone into his jacket pocket. A wave of warmth washed over him. For so long, he had felt overshadowed by a complicated mix of grief, responsibility, and self-doubt, but now, at last, he stood where he belonged. He was the president of Crescent Solutions, forging the path forward for his father's legacy, surrounded by people he respected and who respected him in return. Over the following weeks, life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Work challenges arose, they always did, but the management team addressed them thoughtfully, leaning on each other's strengths. Dylan's keen analytical mind, Ethan's interpersonal approach, and Donovan's occasional sage advice guided them toward balanced, strategic decisions. Profits climbed steadily, though Ethan cared just as much, if not more, about the satisfaction levels among employees. He initiated weekly coffee chats where anyone could sign up to speak with him directly, sharing concerns or innovative ideas. One bright morning, while presiding over a meeting to discuss a potential partnership with a tech startup, Ethan felt an odd pang in his heart. He glanced at an empty chair, recalling the unpleasantness Helena had once brought into the room. But that negativity had been fully removed, replaced by positivity and possibility. Smiling softly, he returned his attention to the meeting, satisfied that the environment now nurtured teamwork rather than fear. Later that day, a courier arrived at Ethan's office with a package. Inside was a small note from Helena Parker. She had scrawled a few lines in shaky handwriting. "I know I owe everyone a lot of apologies. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Thank you for not letting me get away with my crimes. Being held accountable forced me to confront my faults. I don't expect your pity, but I wanted to say, sorry. Helena." Ethan placed the note back in the envelope, exhaling softly. He didn't tell many people about it. It felt personal, best kept as a quiet reminder that people could, indeed, change if they accepted responsibility. Perhaps Helena's transformation was genuine. Perhaps not. But the fact she acknowledged her wrongdoing was a first step. A few more months drifted by. Eventually, the day came for Crescent Solutions to celebrate its anniversary, marking another successful year. Under Ethan's leadership, they had launched new training programs, expanded their international reach, and cultivated a culture of compassion. The staff organized a lively event in the lobby, decorating it with balloons and banners. A few local news outlets even came by to snap photos and conduct interviews, praising the company's unique approach of valuing heart and hard work over academic pedigree alone. Ethan gave a short speech at the event, expressing how proud he was of the entire team. They raised glasses of sparkling juice to toast the future. Caroline beamed at her son's success, Donovan gave him a thumbs up from the sidelines, and Dylan teased him good-naturedly about being a softie who's running a big company. But that was exactly who Ethan was. A man who believed in second chances, teamwork, and personal growth. And so, as the celebration drew to a close, Ethan felt an incredible sense of closure. He had avenged himself against Helena's cruelty, but more importantly, he had reclaimed the integrity and harmony of the workplace his father had helped create. He had proven that bullies could be brought to justice without descending to their level. That night, Ethan locked up his office, stepping onto the rooftop balcony of the Crescent Solutions headquarters. The city lights shimmered across Anderson Falls, a gentle glow against the starlit sky. He leaned against the railing, inhaling the crisp air. Somewhere below all those gleaming lights, people lived their own stories. Stories of adversity, triumph, heartbreak, and joy. It reminded him of his own journey, from a naive teenager losing his father to standing as the company president with a staff that looked up to him. His phone buzzed. A text from Dylan read, "Ready to head home, Mr. President? Mom's waiting with dinner." Chuckling, Ethan typed back a quick affirmative. He took one last glance at the shimmering skyline. A sense of peace washed over him. No matter the challenges that awaited, he knew he had the support of those he cared about, the memory of his father's guidance, and a renewed sense of purpose. He rode the elevator down, crossed the quiet lobby, and stepped out into the street. Life continued, with bright possibilities around every corner. And this time he was walking forward with confidence, ready to lead, ready to protect what his father and Donovan had built, and ready to help every employee find a fulfilling place in the company. In the end, it was not only a story of revenge, but also of resolution, growth, and hope. Crescent Solutions was thriving, free from Helena's toxicity, and Ethan, no longer the silent, overlooked worker, stood at the helm, determined to guide the company toward an even brighter future. Surrounded by family, loyal colleagues, and a legacy left by his father, Ethan Carter had found the happiness he sought. And for a man who once believed he had to sacrifice everything for others, he had gained far more than he ever thought possible.